Hello, everybody. So, because a few days ago, well, actually, the last article we did about talking about Chris and hermaphrodites, by and large, Chris's other known opinions about transgender people that don't include himself, it was a very confused article that seemed to go very, very back and forth in terms of Chris sometimes is tolerant to them, but then he does a complete 180. But then if he knew, like, I'm not even gonna go there again. It seems like I don't know what his methodology is apart from, well, it kind of makes him look bad, and that's the only reason why he changes his tune. So in contrast, we're gonna do something a little bit simpler, but something that should highlight Chris's overall level of uncreativity. Now, with that being said, because this apparently doesn't include things from Hyperdimension Neptunia, but then again, we're going to do an entire separate article on that anyway, because, well, to be honest, Chris has long since stopped talking about that series for a while, and it's probably no reason. There's no doubt in my mind why Chris has stopped talking about it for now, but until then, let's just go through almost a bit of a blitzkrieg, if you will, in talking about the things that Chris himself has ripped off. Good artist copy. Great artist steal. Pablo Picasso demonstrated that even geniuses underestimated the ability of artists like Chris to exist. If artist is a word to describe Chris, it technically is, but ah, I take it one moment at a time and let the story pieces come to me, even if they are sometimes borrowed from a TV show or movie. Chris blatantly admits to plagiarism. Yeah, and so I think we sort of covered Chris's stance on parody and what he considers plagiarism, but let's keep rolling. As every fan of Chris is probably aware of, our hero has quite the imagination. But some argue that due to stress and the mental block that is autism, his powerful and mighty autistic ordeals cannot come to fruition. So he just does what every good TV/book/movie writer does. He goes and steals an enormous amount of things from other places. To his credit, plagiarism isn't easy. After all, how do you grab something that comes from another person's mind, adapt it to your own storyline, and make it so that it fits in, without having whatever it is that you stole stand out like an obese fool with a red and blue striped shirt in the middle of a crowd? Being the genius comic book creator that he is, he feels that he doesn't need to bother with details such as good plot, readability, or even consistency, even within the same panel, let alone across two panels or even two pages. Just stick in a few bouts of random access humor that he found in some sort of form of media, and you got yourselves a new installment in the Sonitude comics. Chris holds a belief that all the fiction exists in an alternative cartoon universe, a La Who Framed Roger Rabbit with no exceptions. So he probably believes that this justifies his plagiaristic tendencies. The world in which Solitude takes place is fundamentally built on the creations of others. Probably because Chris spends most of his time watching television, and that is the way in which he engages with his limited imagination. With all the characters and concepts stolen from other works of fiction crammed into the Sonichu universe, or with his limited imagination, the mythology of Quickville is an unwieldy, confusing, bullshit land which frequently fuses together franchises that are unrelated or even contradictory. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, this is certainly not. With some of Chris's creations, including Sonichu himself, are individual entities which are technically not stolen, though many of their substantial elements very much are. Are He often outright steals established, well-known characters and elements from other works of fiction, and he simply hopes their rightful owners do not notice. He makes no attempt to veil their derivative nature, and has shown that he has no perpetuatory plan for any incident where he's confronted with intellectual property claims. According to Chris, Stealing copyrighted material is fine unless it's his own, as long as you indicate that whatever you're doing is listed as a parody of the original material. In accordance to US copyright law, that is technically true. So, this is probably means that unless he decides to make money out of his artwork, he isn't going to have the law knocking on his door anytime soon. But the question of whether or not Sonnet qualifies as parody is an article in its own right, which we have previously done. Meanwhile, below is a non exhaustive list of just stolen intellectual property. Now, because there's a lot in this, we're just sort of gonna, again, do a blitzkrieg of just everything Chris has done, because get ready, guys, because there is a lot that goes into this. So let's just very, very quickly and get ready. Things stolen by Chris. Sonic the Hedgehog, Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z and GT, Excel Saga, Gurren Lagann, Inuyasha, Kaku Carmen, Marcos Frontier, Pretty Cure, Sailor Moon, Samurai Pizza Cats, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Adventures of the American Rabbit, American Dad, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Beavis and Butthead, Darkwing Duck, Ed and Eddie, Family Guy, Futurama, Ghostbusters, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi, Home Movies, Johnny Bravo, Muppet Babies, My Little Pony, Peanuts, The Powerpuff Girls, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Rick and Morty, Rocco's Modern Life, Saylab 2021, The Simpsons, South Park, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Brack Show, Tiny Toon Adventures, Transformers. Gilligan's Island, Monty Python, Spaceballs, Carrie, Power Rangers, Saw, Independence Day, Alien, Lewis Black's Root of All Evil, Lethal Weapon 2, Star Wars, This is Spinal Tap, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Superman the Movie, The Three Stooges. The Legend of Zelda, Mobile Suit Gundam, Street Fighter, The Mario series, Brutal Legend, God of War, Parappa the Rapper, Gears of War. Jesse Slaughter, Amigo 316, Marvel, Spider Man, The Incredible Hulk, Wolverine. Songs, commercials, the Bible. Also, list of fiction that Chris has referenced or otherwise bastardized. Batman, Bugs Bunny, Dig Dug, Fight Club, and Chuck Palahniuk, Grand Theft Auto, Guitar Hero, Little Big Planet, My Best Friend's Wedding, R.L. Stein, Sprung, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, B. Damon, Star Trek, Happy Tree Friends. Yeah, now if it sounds like that's a lot going into this, then it pretty much is. And to be honest, what you get as a result of all of this is a strange, absolute cacophony when it comes to influences, and everything seems so unbelievably inconsistent and just thrown together that it means that trying to honestly get into this just straight up feels almost like it just there's no consistency, and everything is thrown together at complete random and with no consistency or any cohesion whatsoever. You know what? As much as I love the movie Cool World, I must admit it feels a little bit. It sometimes it feels so chaotic and so unbelievably fast that you do sometimes struggle trying to work out just what the hell is going on. But that also goes into the effect of what happens when you don't even know how to write a coherent story or know even the very basics about what you're doing. I wish it didn't have to be this way, but unfortunately, I feel like sometimes Chris has loads of info, but he has no idea how to orchestrate them or to move anything into any one particular direction. Because you know what? There's probably at least 10 things just from this article. He could have taken plot ideas, he could have taken concepts for design. There's actually things he could have been inspired by, but that would have required Chris to have done, like sketches for possible designs, him to have done like editing and scripts, him to do like story panels about whether or not this would work here and what we could do here, and could there be another joke literally on the panel the next page. Think like almost the sort of things like an actual comic book studio would go into time into investing and to making it their own. And Chris is certainly not that guy. As a result, Solitude is a veritable smorgasbord of things that are stolen and things that Chris doesn't even pretend to hide that they are stolen. Yeah. As a result of all this, it seems rather strange the idea that, quite frankly, nobody has come forward when it comes to disputes about copyright infringement. But at the same time, what exactly are they going to be taking from Chris? I'm sure DC or any of the others could, but for now, that's just what Solitude is. It's just ideas stolen from somebody else. This is it's a thrift version of an idea. It's not an authentic thing. It's something that is it's a Frankenstein of just ideas smashed together. And it's funny enough they mentioned Picasso in the beginning of this because you know what? In many ways, Solitude is a little bit like Picasso. If Picasso woke up one morning, turned around and started beating the hell out of his subjects. In fact, in some ways, any old page from, let's say, Solitude issue 3, it kind of almost resembles a Picasso painting where, like, the ear is almost the size of a pumpkin and, like, the eye is half melting down somebody's face because, like, the proportion almost doesn't look right. Basically, it almost looks like a mess. And I don't think it was intentional. Or maybe I'm wrong, and there you are. But until then, what am I supposed to say? To quote the famous song, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying. I lie, I cheat, I steal." Maybe a little bit too hard there, Chris. Just saying. So with all that being said and done, I'll see you guys in the next station. So, all aboard!